If you're like most people I know, you probably think the only way to deal with ants and aphids is to keep buying another bottle from the garden centre every spring. I used to think the same thing until I realised I was spending money over and over while the same pests kept coming back. Today I'm not going to give you another theory or repeat something I read online. I'm going to walk into my own garden with you, and we're going to test two of the simplest homemade methods I know, using nothing more than things most people already have at home. If they work, you'll see it with your own eyes. If they don't, I'll tell you that too, because I would rather know the truth than waste my time. Come with me, because I already spotted something under this old flat stone that caught my attention. Every time I lift this rock, I expect to see a few ants running around, but today is different. Look closely. There are hundreds of them moving in every direction, and right here are their white eggs packed together so tightly it almost looks like rice. This is exactly how small problems become big ones if we ignore them. Many people would immediately reach for a chemical powder and pour it everywhere without even thinking. I stopped doing that years ago because I wanted something cheaper, simpler, and something I could make in just a few minutes. An old gardener showed me a trick a long time ago, and at first I honestly doubted it could do much. The idea looked almost too simple to be useful. That is usually where most people make a mistake, because they believe only expensive products can solve expensive problems. So today we're going to build this trap together from an empty plastic bottle that was probably headed for the recycling bin anyway. I'll show you exactly where to cut it, why the opening needs to be longer than most people think, and why a spoonful of jam or honey may work better than anything with a warning label on it. Then we'll place it right beside this nest and leave nature to do the rest. But ants are only the beginning, because after this experiment, I'm taking you over to one of my fruit trees, where another common pest is waiting, and that second test surprised me even more than this one. Now let me show you exactly how I make this, because this is where most people overcomplicate something that should take less than 5 minutes. I have an ordinary plastic bottle that was going into the trash, and a small utility knife. That is all I need to start. Instead of cutting the top off, like many people do, I make one long opening along the side of the bottle. I don't want a tiny hole because ants don't like squeezing through narrow spaces when there is food nearby. The opening needs to be long enough that they can walk in naturally, almost as if they were following a little tunnel. That small detail was shown to me many years ago, and I still use it because it makes perfect sense once you see it. After the opening is finished, I take a spoonful of old jam that has been sitting in the refrigerator for a while. Honey works too, but today I want to use something that cost me nothing, because almost everyone has a forgotten jar of jam somewhere in the kitchen. I spread a generous layer along the inside of the bottle instead of placing it in one little pile. That way every ant that walks inside has to travel farther before it can turn around. The sweet smell starts drifting almost immediately, and even while I'm talking I can already see a few scout ants changing direction. They always seem to find sugar faster than we expect. This is why I never rush this part. I place the bottle only a few inches from the nest with the opening facing the busiest trail. I do not block the entrance to the colony, and I do not disturb the ants more than necessary, because I want to see what they choose to do on their own. That is the whole point of today's experiment. We are not forcing anything. We are simply giving them something attractive and watching what happens next. My expectation is simple. The first ants will discover the sweet bait and return to the colony. More workers should follow the same scent trail until the bottle becomes much busier than the ground around it. Some of them will become trapped in the sticky layer, while others continue bringing more ants toward the bait. At least that is the idea behind this old method, and now we have a chance to see whether it really performs the way people have claimed for years. I always enjoy moments like this because they remind me that gardening is full of small experiments, rather than perfect answers. Sometimes an old forgotten trick surprises you. Sometimes it teaches you that a popular idea is not as effective as people say. Either way, you learn something useful without spending much money. I'm going to leave this trap exactly where it is and let the ants make the next move, while we turn our attention to another problem that almost every fruit grower faces sooner or later. Over on my young fruit tree, there are fresh clusters of aphids covering the tender shoots, and instead of guessing which homemade remedy is better, we're going to compare two of the most talked about recipes side by side on the very same tree. That way there will be no excuses and no debate, because the leaves themselves will tell us the real story. Let's leave the ants alone for a while, because there is no point standing here every minute expecting a miracle. Good experiments need a little patience, and while that trap is doing its job, I want to show you another problem that appears in almost every garden sooner or later. Come over here to this young fruit tree and look closely at these fresh shoots. From a distance, the leaves almost look healthy, but once you move the camera in, you can immediately see what is really happening. Every soft tip is covered with tiny green aphids packed so tightly together that you can barely see the stem underneath them. The newest leaves have already started curling, and if I leave this tree alone much longer, these insects will keep sucking the sap until the new growth becomes weak and twisted. This is usually the moment when people head straight to the store looking for another expensive spray. I understand why, because I did exactly the same thing for years. Then one season, an older neighbor asked me a simple question. Why spend money before you even know whether the things already sitting in your kitchen can do the same job? That question stayed with me, and since then I have enjoyed testing old home remedies for myself instead of believing every recommendation I read online. Today we're going to compare two of the most popular homemade recipes people talk about all the time, and we're going to do it as fairly as possible. The first mixture is nothing more than onions and garlic. The second one uses household ammonia mixed with a special liquid soap made for garden plants. Both have plenty of supporters, and both have people who swear nothing else works better. Instead of arguing, I would rather let this tree answer the question. I already marked two different groups of branches with small pieces of colored ribbon so I don't lose track later. Everything on the left side will receive the onion and garlic mixture. Everything on the right side will receive the ammonia solution. Both sides have about the same number of aphids, similar leaves, and the same amount of sunlight, so I think this gives us a fair comparison. Now let me show you exactly how I prepare the first mixture, because this is another place where I think most gardeners make an unnecessary mistake. Almost every recipe tells you to dilute the onion and garlic with plenty of water before spraying. Today I'm not going to do that. I want to see what happens when the mixture is used at full strength. I want to know whether the stronger smell gives better control of the aphids, and just as importantly, whether such a concentrated mixture causes any damage to the leaves themselves. If the leaves stay healthy while the aphids disappear, we may have discovered something surprisingly simple that costs almost nothing, and after that we'll prepare the second mixture and give it exactly the same honest chance to prove itself. I already prepared everything I need on this little table because I don't like running back and forth once I start spraying. Here are 2 onions, several cloves of garlic, a knife, a small container, my hand sprayer, a bottle of household ammonia, and a liquid soap that is made for use on garden plants. Nothing here is expensive, and most of it is probably already somewhere in your house. I begin with the onion and garlic because this is the recipe that always gets people arguing. Some say you should soak everything overnight. Others insist you have to boil it. I like keeping things simple. I chop the onions into small pieces, crush the garlic, and press everything together until it becomes a wet, strong-smelling mixture. The smell is enough to make your eyes water, which always makes me smile because I start wondering what the aphids are going to think about it. Instead of adding water like almost every recipe recommends, I squeeze the liquid straight into my sprayer and leave it exactly as it is. This is the whole purpose of today's test. I want to know if using it at full strength will kill more aphids without harming the tree itself. I slowly spray every marked branch on the left side, making sure the liquid reaches both the top and the underside of every curled leaf, because that is where many of the insects are hiding. I don't rush this part because missing half the colony would make the comparison useless. Once those branches are completely covered, I put that sprayer aside so there is no chance of mixing the two recipes by accident. Now it is time for the second solution. Into another sprayer I pour the measured amount of water, add a small amount of household ammonia, and finish with the liquid plant soap. The soap helps the mixture spread across the leaves instead of forming little drops that simply roll away. I gently shake the bottle until everything is mixed evenly, and then move over to the branches marked with the second ribbon. Just like before, I spray every leaf carefully from both sides and continue until all the aphids are coated. Looking at the tree now, you would never know that 2 completely different mixtures have been used, because both treated sections appear almost identical. That is exactly what I wanted. The only thing left now is time. We need to let both recipes do their work without interfering. While we wait, I want you to pay attention to something that many gardeners forget. The goal is not only to kill the insects, we also need to protect the leaves, because a treatment that damages the tree can become almost as much of a problem as the pests themselves. In a little while, we'll come back to these same branches with the camera as close as possible, count what has changed, examine the condition of the aphids, and see whether either mixture leaves behind signs that most people never notice until much later. That part of the experiment often tells a much bigger story than the spraying itself. A little time has passed now, and this is the part I enjoy the most, because opinions stop mattering once you can actually see the results. Let's go back to the tree and have a close look at every branch we treated. I'll start with the onion and garlic mixture because that was the one I was most curious about. Right away I can see that many of the aphids are no longer moving. Some are still attached to the stems, but they look dried out and lifeless, while others have already fallen onto the leaves below. That is always a good sign because living aphids usually stay firmly attached and continue feeding. I slowly turn over several leaves and check the undersides where the largest groups were hiding earlier. There are still a few survivors here and there, but compared to what we saw before spraying, the difference is easy to notice. Now I look at the leaves themselves because that was the biggest question in my mind. I wanted to know whether using such a strong mixture without adding water would burn the fresh growth or leave ugly marks behind. Honestly, I was expecting at least a little damage, especially on these soft young leaves, but so far everything still looks healthy. The leaves remain green, they haven't curled any further, and I don't see the brown spots that many people worry about when using concentrated homemade sprays. Of course, I would still recommend trying any new mixture on a small part of a plant first, because every garden is different. But on this tree, the first result is definitely encouraging. Now let's move over to the branches that received the ammonia and plant soap solution. At first glance, the aphids here seem to be in almost the same condition. Most of them have stopped moving and the colonies are clearly much smaller than they were before. So if we only judge these two methods by how many insects they killed, I would honestly say they performed very similarly. But when I move the camera closer, another difference begins to appear. The leaves treated with the soap mixture have a thin, shiny coating across their surface. It is not thick, and it certainly isn't ruining the tree, but you can feel it with your fingers, and you can easily see it when the sunlight catches the leaves from the side. That sticky film may slowly disappear after rain or watering, but personally I prefer leaves that look and feel completely natural after treatment. This is exactly why I wanted to compare these recipes instead of relying on guesses. Sometimes two methods solve the same problem, yet one leaves behind small side effects that only become obvious when you stop and look carefully. There is still one final conclusion I want to make after seeing both experiments together, because the biggest lesson from today has very little to do with ants or aphids, and much more to do with how we approach problems in the garden. Standing here now and looking back at both experiments, I think the biggest surprise is not that the homemade remedies worked. The biggest surprise is how little money it actually took to deal with two of the most common garden problems. One empty plastic bottle, a spoonful of old jam, a couple of onions, a few garlic cloves, and a little household ammonia. That is almost everything we use today. Most of these things were already sitting around the house, and none of them required a special trip to the garden center. I like that because gardening has always been about making the best use of what you already have, instead of believing every problem needs another expensive solution. The ant trap is still sitting exactly where we left it, and even without disturbing it, you can clearly see much more activity around the bottle than there was earlier. The trail leading toward the opening is much busier now, and that tells me the bait is doing exactly what I hoped it would do. I am not going to pull the trap apart or make big claims before enough time has passed, because I prefer letting the results speak for themselves. Good gardening has taught me that patience usually gives more honest answers than excitement. Over here at the fruit tree, I feel much more confident making a conclusion because we have already seen the first results with our own eyes. Both homemade sprays reduced the aphid population far more than many people would expect. Neither one looked like a miracle that solved everything instantly, but both clearly made a real difference, and that is exactly what I hoped this experiment would show. If I had to choose only one of them for my own garden after what I have seen today, I would reach for the onion and garlic mixture. The reason is actually very simple. It controlled the aphids almost as well as the ammonia solution, while leaving the leaves looking clean and natural. I do not see that light sticky coating that remained after using the soap mixture, and I like the idea of treating young leaves without leaving anything behind that collects dust or dirt. That does not mean the second recipe failed. In fact, I think it worked very well. It simply means that when two methods give me almost the same result, I naturally choose the simpler one that leaves the plant looking untouched. An older gardener once told me that the best remedy is often the one that solves the problem while changing as little else as possible, and after today's comparison, I understand exactly what he meant. These little experiments remind me that the garden is one of the best places to keep learning, because every season gives us another chance to test old ideas instead of accepting them without question. Sometimes an old, forgotten method turns out to be just as useful today as it was many years ago, and finding that out for yourself is one of the most satisfying parts of growing your own food. After spending the day walking through these two simple experiments, I think I was reminded of something that is easy to forget in modern gardening. We often believe every new problem needs another product, another bottle, or another special treatment that promises quick results. The truth is that some of the most useful ideas have been sitting quietly in ordinary homes for generations. They are not exciting because they are expensive. They are useful because they are simple enough that almost anyone can try them without risking a lot of money. Today we found an active ant nest, built a trap from nothing more than an old plastic bottle and a little sweet bait, then left it to do its work without complicated equipment or chemicals. After that, we moved straight to the fruit tree and compared two homemade sprays under the same conditions, instead of guessing which one might be better. We looked closely at the insects, the leaves, and the small details that many people never stop to notice. For me, that is what gardening should always be about. It is not about believing every tip you hear or copying every recipe from the internet. It is about observing your own plants, making careful comparisons, and deciding what actually works in your own garden. From what I have seen today, I will probably keep using the onion and garlic mixture whenever I need a simple first step against aphids, because it gave me the result I wanted without leaving that light sticky coating behind on the leaves. I will also keep the bottle trap in mind whenever I discover another busy ant colony, because it costs almost nothing to make, and there is no reason not to test it before reaching for stronger products. Of course, no single method solves every problem forever. Weather changes, gardens change, and every season teaches us something new. That is exactly why I enjoy making these little experiments, instead of pretending there is one perfect answer for every situation. If something works well, I keep using it. If it disappoints me, I change my approach and try something else. Little by little, the garden teaches you what no instruction booklet ever can. If there is one thing I hope you take away from today's video, it is the confidence to test simple ideas for yourself instead of assuming that the most expensive option must automatically be the best one. A healthy, productive garden is usually built through many small practical decisions rather than one miracle product. Next time we can put another old gardening method to the test and see whether it deserves a place in our gardens today, because there are still plenty of forgotten ideas that are worth looking at with fresh eyes, and I think some of them may surprise both of us just as much as these experiments did today.